are you?
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great this lovely rainy Monday.
It is so lovely and so rainy, and I love it. And before you jumped on, we had some agents saying that they had a great weekend showing properties and attending
Nice.
Ignite sessions. So I'm excited about that. Well, let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to co host with me today. Our fearless leader, Brett Caldwell, is actually teaching out of the country. So
Yep.
you're stuck with me and Mark this morning, guys. I tried to play us some music, but I couldn't get my sound going. So it's just us today, but we do have some good information.
And we'll
Mark,
try to be entertaining.
and we'll try to be entertaining. I know, right? I'm going to go ahead and jump in and share my screen so we can talk about the numbers and look at what's happening in the world that we live in. Come on out of my post here. I want to start with Fulton County and just kind of want to get some updates and just get your perspective, Mark, on what we're looking like. Hopefully I can hide this. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So I am looking at Fulton County, and actually towards the end of last week and starting with today, we had a great uptick in active
Hmm.
listings that are on the market. I love that because literally it's showing me, and if I'm looking at the trend, we're doing some great things in terms of listing some properties in Fulton County, and to see a nice uptick was very, very promising. Active under contract went down just a little bit, but our coming soon's kind of increase, maybe a little flat, maybe one or two there. But one of the things that I would certainly say to look at is our withdrawals. We did have an increase of listings that were withdrawn from the market. And of
Hmm.
course, our expires went down dramatically from week over week. So that's
Right.
interesting to see that. But not really, because really that's coming off of the end of the month, the first of a new week, a new month, we always see an uptick there.
Right.
But I am happy to say closed properties maintained. They went down just a little bit, but still pretty healthy. What would you add to that, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, I think the spring market is happening. People who've been waiting to put their properties on the market are finally putting them on the market. And we're seeing that uptick in active inventory. And we're also seeing that, even though it's a slight downtick on the closed properties. The previous weeks included the end of the month for February. So I think that's looking like it's going to be a very strong March.
Think so. I call it March Madness. So hopefully a lot of people are taking advantage of a lot of different things going on the market, but spring is in the air and we certainly felt it on Saturday. I'm going to jump
Don't
over to
don't be
Cobb
using all
County.
those sports ball analogies on me.
No. In Cobb County, which I always like to look at because, I saw something a little bit different, but just to kind of run through the numbers in Cobb, active, we saw about 569 properties actively listed. It did go up week over week, so that was a great indicator. But look here in terms of active under contract. If you look at
Hmm.
the week prior, that's pretty steady. The previous weeks have all been steady in terms of having 76, 77, 84. Back in the first part of February, we were up in the 90s, but this is to answer your question and to really be able to piggyback a strong March. This is a great indicator that either houses are really moving, or they're pricing it really right in Cobb County, but that is a very, very good sign. So I'm excited about that. That's a lot of optimism there. Any thoughts that you would have in terms of Cobb?
Yeah, I think the time frame is such that people that are looking to make a move right when the school year ends are starting to go under contract, right? So I think we're going to start seeing that momentum.
Love it. Taking a look just at coming soons, those are pretty consistent week over week. So not a whole lot of movement, but there was an uptick. Pendings really consistent. There wasn't really much change there. Withdrawals, we didn't see a lot of withdrawals. As a matter of fact, in Cobb County, the withdrawn listings actually were down week over week as they were compared to Fulton. And then expireds, of course, were down, and closed volume, which I always like to look to see, what is exactly closed. We're seeing some good consistency, down a little bit week over week, but still very strong in the month of March. So I thought that was very promising.
Yeah, if you look at the weeks prior to that, 151 is actually a very strong week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Henry County. Now, I am a South Side girl, so I just wanted to bring everybody right on down to South because here's the thing that I think about in terms of just looking at everything that we can, see where is the market moving and what's happening in different areas. I always think that there may be opportunities for us. So, if you look in Henry County, there was a small uptick in terms of active listings there. Under contract, they went down just a little bit, but it's pretty flat in terms of active under contract listings. And then when we're looking at our pendings, pendings were flat, so there wasn't a whole lot there. Even withdrawals and expireds were the same. So we see a little bit of consistency going on week over week in Henry County. And close volume, that was down a little bit. So that may indicate that there may be some pricing opportunities there. There could also be some things in terms of moving properties, and we're going to get into some of the things to really kind of strategies that agents are doing in order to move some properties. But is there anything that you would add? And what are you all talking about in your market center in terms of really getting things moved?
So one of the things we're really focusing is just on conversion. We're having
Mhm.
lots of conversations about the framework of the conversation to convert a client. Because I think a lot of people are meeting people and they're having conversations, but they're not converting. So we're spending a lot of time working on that conversation with, simply using a framework of, I call it bacon, uh, build rapport, ask questions, clarify, and set the next step. And then we also are spending some time just talking about that statement they use to clarify and set the next step, which is, here's what I recommend we do next, or here's what we're going to do next. So you're going from question asking mode to prescribing.
And I love it. As a matter of fact, in our team meeting tomorrow, that's one of the things that we're talking about because I do feel like people are getting a lot of leads, but really the skill set is coming into converting those leads. So whether it's your
Right.
database, whether it's online leads, all of those things, really talking about converting those. And so some of the topics that I wanted to get into today in terms of looking at, well, what's happening in the market? How can we convert more leads? There was a article in Inman. It's from the head of the Instagram company. He reveals secrets to social media success. So now I know everybody, including myself and Mark, you included, we all have had to incorporate social media into our um, toolbox in order to make sure that we are getting more leads, capturing more leads, and our agents are doing it at the highest level. So, one thing that this article shared was Instagram has become a crucial marketing outlet for top agents. And many of them are still trying to figure out, well, what are the algorithms in order to convert leads and what do you post? And how do we actually get into people really responding? So here's what the head of Instagram, his name is Adam Missouri, had to say. Really, it was about sends and shares. Those are the triggers or the algorithms that you use in order to make sure that people are getting information. So I took some notes on this, and so, one of the biggest deciding factors on what the content should be is really inspiration and creativity. So, if you're someone like me who doesn't really like to be on the screen to talk about myself or anything other than that, there's a lot of different things that you can use. And this article gave some great tips. So, I'll give you some examples. They talked about focusing on content that your audience will share with other people. So, not necessarily just what we feel is important, but what the audience will share with other people. So, an example of that was upcoming improvements or developments in terms of what's happening. So, they used a great example in here about just the farmers market. There was an agent who actually talked about the farmers market and really just talking about what's happening in the area for the farmers market. That became one of her reels. And so that may be some good information that we can talk about, maybe new things that are coming up, new communities, things of that nature as well. And then directly asking for desired results, so engaging the social media platform and clients and customers on the social media platform. What are your thoughts about all of this? We see people on social media all the time. So, what are your
Mm.
thoughts in terms of incorporating and what's working?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about, the content that other people will want to send to their friends and maybe not just share it, but to send it. They weight that heavier, but also just how important those first 3 seconds are, right? To grab the attention of the audience. So making sure that that first 3 seconds is like a hook.
Yes, a hook. So it's so interesting. And one of the reasons why they said that that has to be so interesting, and it resonated with me perfectly, even last night. A lot of people don't have sound. When they're scrolling through Instagram, the sound may not be on. And so for me, I know that sometimes I'm sitting in bed and, before I actually go to bed, I may be scrolling through Instagram or some of the TikToks, and I don't have my sound on because I don't want to disturb my husband. So, or I may not like all of the sounds. So we really do have to have a hook in it. And one of the ways that you can get a hook is to have text on your video. So if you're doing Instagram, make sure you have text on your video. But I thought this was a cool article to kind of talk about social media and how we can actually convert those people. Any last thoughts that you would have on that?
Yeah, I would just say if you have a subscription to Inman, go look at this because it actually shows the guy from Instagram talking about this video. That shows him talking about this stuff, and it's really fascinating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's some other news from Inman. I thought this was an interesting article as well. A small but growing minority think it's a good time to buy a home. Now, I know we have been talking about this. Is it a good time? And anytime that anyone asks me, is it a good time to buy or sell? I always tell them it absolutely is. Because in any market, you're going to have buyers, and in any market, you're going to have sellers. And one thing that we know is that real estate is a long term play. But I thought this was interesting because it says while only 1 in 4 Americans surveyed last month in the month of February by Fannie Mae, they said it was a good time to buy a home. And that was up from an all time low of 14% last spring.
Right.
Anything that you would add to this in terms of what your thoughts are and what agents you feel like agents are hearing?
Yeah, I think this is the sort of sticker shock wearing off, right? The sticker shock of interest rates, of prices, everything that we went through from mid 2022 till now. It's people are starting to adjust to the new normal and are saying, you know what? If I need to buy a house, it's a good time. So, but I think the thing that we always need to remember is to continue to have the conversations around life events because that's what's driving those purchases.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we leave this article, Mark Hallam, he said, while consumers may be slowly acclimating to the higher mortgage rate environment, the vast majority continue to believe it's a bad time to buy a home. Now, here's a caveat that I would say about this. This is on a national level. And I do think that real estate is hyper local, even when it comes down to certain neighborhoods. We're going to switch over to Atlanta, the Atlanta market, and talk about what they're saying, but there are some realities to different people's perspectives, so we have to change the narrative. This is an article that says Atlanta is the home to the largest share of canceled home sales in the US. And I bring this article up because we are seeing this in our market. We're seeing canceled home sales, but I want to talk about why we're actually seeing it. So it says a rising number of home buyers are backing out of contracts in Metro Atlanta. As increasing prices, erratic movements from Washington, D.C. have many people thinking twice about making that often decade-long commitment. Now, I look at this and I say, okay, all of this, Toya, sounds doom and gloom, but here
Mhm.
is the reality of it. It really isn't, because I think these are the conversations that we have to have. And I think if there is a conversation, there's also determining motivation. Because you mentioned one thing, Mark, is that people have life circumstances that are going to make them move. It is our
Right.
job as the expert to figure out what's the motivation behind all of this. So when I read this article, I thought about, you know what? Yes, we have seen a lot of that, but I always tell people, take them back to the motivation of why they started looking at buying a home or even selling their home, in terms of getting that fickleness, just knowing that they're hearing a lot of noise and they're reading just like we're reading. So, what are your thoughts on sharing some of this and strategies that you think some of our associates can use?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with the expectations gap between what buyers expect to happen and what actually happens, right? Their expectations going into transaction, especially when they're paying a higher interest rate and a higher price, and they're maybe even having to compete still. They want the house to be perfect. And you and I both know there is no such thing as a perfect house. I've never seen even a new construction house that didn't have something on the inspection report. So I think a lot of our job right now is managing expectations, on both sides, managing the buyer's expectation of what issues are going to be in the home, and also managing expectations for the seller who's already maybe not listing as high as they'd like to, um, and helping them understand they are going to need to be willing to negotiate and come off of that price to do concessions, to address repairs, things like that. So it's bridging that expectations gap where we have our opportunity.
And I love that you shared that. I think the other part is that we've got to do more check-ins. It's no longer that this transaction is moving so quickly. We really do have to check the temperature. We've got to check the pulse of our clients to be
Mm-hmm.
able to say, "Hey, how are you feeling?" Give them updates. We've got to be more proactive than reactive, because it's almost
Right.
like there's so many different things coming at them in different sound bites, whether they're hearing it on a national level or even on a local level in our market, to think that, oh my goodness, there people are walking away. Yes, people are. However, I do believe that if we can control the narrative and if we can control how we're checking in to make sure that they are comfortable in the process and that we still understand they're going to their desired results.
We should definitely be also just talking about buyer's remorse with buyers during that buyer strategy session or that buyer consultation. So they know that's a normal part of the process. So when it arrives, they go, oh, that's right. Toya told me this was going to happen, right? This is
Yep.
just part of the process. Everyone goes through it. So helping them understand that they are at some point going to have buyer's remorse. And what that shouldn't do is derail their goal. What it should do is let them know that they are going through the process and they're being fully aware and present.
And I always tell people, follow the process. So
Follow,
there you
trust the
have it on
process.
that one.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to let you get into this and lead us in this article from the National Association of Home Builders, because we've
Yeah.
been talking and hearing a lot about tariffs. And really, the one thing that we wanted to know is, oh my goodness, how is it going to impact the home building industry? So if you want to go ahead and share your perspective on this article.
Yeah. So real quick, it's a pretty straightforward article, but the big takeaways are the majority of items we get from Canada and Mexico are soft wood and gypsum, meaning sheetrock. So um, they are looking at an estimated $7,500 to $10,000 of additional building costs per home, per new construction home, if these tariffs play out. So right now, the NAHB, the National Association of Home Builders, has lobbied the government to please, please, please exempt those items from that, so we don't see an increase in the cost of new construction homes being built. But as of right now, that's kind of what they're looking at: $7,500 to $10,000 additional just because of those tariffs. And I think that's something to keep in mind, because I think I've had people ask me, what does this mean for real estate? And this is the most clear cut example I could see. Aside from just generalized anxiety that happens when there's uncertainty, which tends to keep people from diving in and making decisions. But if they have a life event, they're going to make the decision. But the question is, how much are they going to pay? And if these tariffs go through, it does look like it's going to be about $7,500 to $10,000 more.
Well, we have to be able to share what actually is happening. So I do believe, as leaders in the industry, we have to be, and all of us are leaders in the industry. You're leading your clients and your customers to help them make informed decisions. And I think transparency is key. So everything is not just, roses. There are some issues that we may have to think about, but I do think that this is an opportunity to get people off the fence, in order to make some timely decisions if they were on the fence. So I like to find that silver lining in any single thing that we, read or find out, to find out what's going to help people make them make an offer to move. And so I think that those are the different things that we can kind of look at and even share with them.
And
Any other
honestly, this is
last?
a great touch. It's a great touch point for lead gen. Honestly, you can position yourself as an expert saying, a lot of people have been asking me how these proposed tariffs will affect home buying and the real estate market in the US. Take a look at this link from the National Association of Home Builders where they talk about that and the potential increase in price of new construction homes. Be the expert, right? Be the economist of choice for your people. Send this out, and I guarantee you will start some conversations, especially if you ask it with a question, like take a look and read this article and then let me know, does this concern you? Or let me know, what are your thoughts? Get a conversation going.
And Luke's, thank you so much for putting all of the PDFs and articles in Circle. The other thing is, we were talking about social media, guys, and hooks and information and things that people share. This is great content. So if you're looking for content, these are the type of things that people want to know what's happening, because these are not the standard conversations that real estate professionals are having. So take advantage of some of these articles in order to create curiosity, in order to make sure that you're connecting, because that's the biggest thing that we're doing on social media anyway, is really connecting people with you in terms of making sure that they get the accurate information. So I think this is spot on. Our last article that I wanted to share, because I think this is some great news. I kind of want to see, well, what does it look like in terms of Atlanta? And where are people coming and where are they going and where are the opportunities? And so I went on to Redfin just to kind of look to see what their migration, what it looks like in terms of migration to and from Atlanta. And so, where are people moving to Atlanta from? So, across the nation, 2% of home buyers search to move into the Atlanta from outside metros. New York was the number one migration from people moving from their place to Atlanta. Also, it was followed up by Los Angeles and Washington. And so, here's what I love about being with our company is that we are a global company. So when I think about this, I think about part of your portfolio should be referrals. And we have a great referral network. So maybe reaching out to your New York counterparts who are with KW, whether you did that at family reunion or whether you just go through relocations and you actually, or locations, our KW locations map, and you find other associates that are in New York in order to partner with to say, hey, I can handle your referral if people are looking at moving to Atlanta, or maybe you're a specific area in Atlanta. So I thought this was awesome. The other part
Yeah,
was, where are people from Atlanta moving to? Did you realize that most people are just moving intrastate in the state of Atlanta? So 77% of Atlanta home buyers search to stay within the Atlanta metropolitan area. The next up was Chattanooga was the most popular destination among Atlanta home buyers, followed by Macon and Savannah. So, Mark, what are your thoughts with that? I thought that was interesting.
it is interesting. And when you look at that little map, it's just interesting to see people are moving really far to get to Atlanta, but then once they're here, they're only moving a little bit further away. I think the opportunity is in referrals, right? The opportunity is in to partner with the people where people are moving from. But then also, like, if 70 something percent of people in Metro Atlanta are moving somewhere else within Metro Atlanta, and there are areas you don't work, like, for example, my office is in Old Fourth Ward. If I have a buyer that wants to go out to Brazelton, that's not really my area. I don't know it well. So it would behoove me to have a great relationship with a solid agent out in Brazelton, right? So just having like your outskirts of um, the greater metro Atlanta area, having referral partners in those places can really pay off for you, and vice versa. They're going to have people who are moving into the city.
Absolutely. There are a lot of great questions in the chat. One is talking about what do you think? What are your thoughts on investors purchasing a lot of these homes and thinking about flipping properties? One of the things that I would add is that's not new. We've seen a lot of big hedge funds, investor companies come in and purchase. Gosh, I remember when, oh gosh, back in what, 2013, we had a lot of investors and hedge funds purchase up a lot of the real estate market for
Mm.
rentals. And here's the thing that my perspective on it. I think that one, it's a great opportunity for you to be able to get with some of those hedge funds because they're going to buy them anyway. So maybe think about that. You can actually have a lot of listings in your portfolio. The other part is that, I think that there's a concept in terms of people, if they're going to be flipping properties, they're also renting. There's a lot of new construction in terms of homes and areas that are for rent. I think there is bringing back home buying seminars and home selling seminars. I think we've got to do more of that to cast a larger net. But none of this is new. What's your perspective on that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I see in the Chad Jane is talking about there is a bill that's been proposed to limit the number of homes that a hedge fund can own. I think I liked that idea. I think it's
Mhm.
easier said than done because hedge funds can, create other entities, and then own an entity that owns an entity that owns an entity. So it's going to be a little bit harder to implement something like that if it passes, but I do hope it passes. I think it would be really great to get some of those homes back into the regular rotation of inventory like they would if they were owned by a single home investor, where they might keep it for 7 years, 8 years, and then sell it, versus these hedge funds that buy them, put tenants in them, and keep them for a really long period of time because it's part of a long-term investment.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. There's another one Michelle puts in here. Big corps are backing down on purchases because the cap rate is not profitable now.
That's
So
definitely true.
that is true. So we're seeing a lot of that. But what are the opportunities for us? Here's the thing that I would say for us as real estate professionals, what are we taking advantage of? Not just helping others buy and sell, but what are we doing in order to build our portfolio and our network of investment properties? One of the things that I love that Gary Keller says is that every deal that he's ever looked at, the first thing that he looked at in the question was, is this a good investment for myself? First.
Yep.
So I still think that there is an opportunity for us to take advantage. And I just think that we need to look at where are the opportunities right now.
I've talked to two agents in the past week who have difficult listings coming up that are fixer uppers. One in particular that doesn't even they don't want to put it on the market. The owners know. And so I said, get me the information. Let's look at it and see if it's an opportunity that maybe as a market center, some of us can go in and, you know, either buy it and renovate it and flip it, or buy it and rent it out and hold it. So talk to your people, and that should always be the question when you're looking at a home that you're about to list. Is this something I should buy? That should be the number one question in your head. And then if it's not, then what are the options, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love the collaboration. I think that that right now is a lot that people are looking at doing is joining in and collaborating together, where you can do more investment properties that way. So I think when you're having those hard to move properties and those difficult properties, I think that's a great opportunity for people to come together and really collaborate on how they're going to purchase those properties. All right, we've got
Agreed.
1 minute left. So, what would be your closeout, and what is the market of the moment conversation?
Market of the moment conversation is learn how to have a consistent conversion conversation with your buyers and sellers. And the only other thing I wanted to throw out there that we didn't get a chance to get through is, Rocket Mortgage and that Rocket family of
Yes.
companies announced that they bought Redfin. So they're just putting that into their platform of home services. So uh, I think you're going to see a lot more of those consolidations happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if Supra or CenturyLock ends up selling to either Zillow or Rocket Mortgage slash Redfin.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the main reasons why they said that they're doing that is because they can convert more. So every company is looking at converting. So the whole premise behind Rocket Mortgage looking at getting purchasing Redfin is so that they can convert more of those leads in terms of financing. So the market of the moment conversation is conversion, conversion, conversion. How are you converting from a lead to an appointment, from an appointment to a contract, from a contract to a closing? And if
Yeah.
you stay engaged with those four levels, that's the name of this game. We are at 11:31. Mark, you have been amazing. Thank you for hosting with me today.
You as well. Always good to spend time with you. And you guys have a great day.
All right, have an award winning day. Take care.